What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 236, and we're talking building a brand. You have to tell your story because no one cares what you're selling. This is a super important thing in restaurants we need to really understand. We have to tell our story. It makes the food more delicious and makes people want to spend more money. So if you tell your story, you actually have an opportunity to succeed in this industry. This is Best Served New Volume 1, where we're working with Meta Asian Kitchen. And this is episode number 2 of the series. And we'll touch on kind of what you can expect for the whole series as we go on. And yeah, we're going to be chronicling and coaching entrepreneurs through opening their F&B businesses, something that is so important because so many of us chefs get into restaurants and we think we know, and we just don't know. There are 500 steps that it takes to open a restaurant, and we're really good at about 101 of them. And our ability to understand all those things is what we're trying to get to. So I want to bring Ken and Doris in. Good to see you both.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. And I was so appreciative last week. We started this series, episode 1. We really just dove into why the hell you're doing this, why you got into this crazy industry, why you continue to push forward, especially in a moment like, a pandemic. And it really came down to your families. Both of your families have that restaurant background. First generation Americans, they pushed you out of the restaurant, and you just were so fundamentally compelled to get your ass back in the restaurant. Who knows why? And that's what we really touched on. And so I appreciate that. And especially Doris, I know it got very personal and emotional for you. And that's what a restaurant is, personal and emotional. And actually, the more that we can connect that story with our guests, the more opportunity we have, because otherwise it's just food. And I think somebody else has a cheaper price or somebody else has a better product potentially. Nobody else has your story. And that's what we really want to get to. So I guess, how did it feel starting this off and being able to share your stories? What's the feedback you've gotten? I saw a lot of people commenting and supporting you guys, which is great.
Yeah, it feels really good to get to share our story, give the customers a little deeper understanding of why we do what we do, and we get to, speak our piece, kind of. This is why we're here.
I could not agree more. And Ken, for you, we got to touch on, you get to kind of chef talk with your mom now, which is super cool. And then, what does she call you? The big shot chef?
Tai Chi, which is like the big chef, like make way for the Tai Chi.
That's perfect. We need shirts. We absolutely need shirts that say exactly that. This is the part of the story, because when they're eating that dish that connects to you cooking with your mother, it transcends them to a place. And that's what we need now more than ever. We absolutely need to be taken to a place, to a time, to a moment, to an experience, to a story. And if food can be the catalyst for that, that's the opportunity. And so we're going to touch on that today. We're going to bring in a couple different guests. We're going to talk about the Chinese American kind of story and the ability to amplify that and put that on a pedestal in a meaningful way through food and beverage. And there's some challenges there and some opportunities. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of branding, the way that you're visually delivering on that story through your logo. And then we're going to talk about your ability to kind of, again, transcend that story and build a community that really rallies around you. And the food is the gathering place for that. Yet they're really coming to experience your stories. And so we're going to really focus on that brand story in this. So I want to bring in Michelle Lamb from Brooklynite Media now to speak with us. Michelle, great to see you.
Great to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
All right. So you out in Brooklyn, and so a lot of the cultural references I think we're going to touch on right now are very near and dear to Ken and Doris, being from Boston and Jersey, and kind of having that East Coast swagger, I think is key. And they're trying to bring that to Denver, Colorado. And so we're gonna navigate that a little bit.
Sure.
For you, Michelle, really being embedded in the Chinese American community there in New York, you really understand, again, the needs, the challenges, the opportunities to kind of tell that story and break through some of the white noise of there's more Chinese food restaurants in America than any other cuisine type. Yet
Right.
What Ken and Doris are trying to do is something different. And so they need to break out and move beyond and above those kind of tropes that are stuck maybe in the psyche of what people expect of food and beverage for a Chinese restaurant. So take us there. When we're talking about that, what are the things that Ken and Doris need to be thinking about?
Well, definitely one of the things that I find to be challenging, even growing up with my dad owning restaurants, is people are so fixated on the typical Chinese American food, which is what, sesame chicken, General Tso chicken, and hot and sour soup, right? So I think it's really more about the education that everyone really has to bring in. You know, the chef and the restaurant have to introduce the culture, which you guys have touched upon already, to bring the experience from another country. If you are from, different regions in Asia, where are these flavors coming from? Or what type of food do you eat in your own kitchen that really defines authenticity? And I think with those type of food, we just have to really be able to brand them individually, explaining even the story that maybe your great grandmother have taught your mother or your grandmother how to pleat the dumplings. Those are the stories that I feel a lot of people really can relate to and also appreciate each of the flavors that you put into every single food that you execute and serve to people. And also,
Michelle, let me ask you, because I know this is kind of a struggle for Ken and Doris. When people hear Chinese, they instantly go to these dishes, which, let's just call it what it is. Those are barely Chinese. The dishes that you mentioned, General Tso's is not Chinese in any way, shape, or form, right? And so it's a challenge for them when somebody comes to them and they're looking at the menu. And I know Ken and Doris have this experience. They're looking for the orange chicken. They're looking for that dish that they expect, and then they see tofu skins and they go, what the hell is this weird stuff, right? And they don't understand it. So take us there. The ability to be able to tell that story, yet recognizing that you are fighting against generations of kind of built-in stigma and expectation in the market.
Right. So with those type of food, again, it's really all about being able to educate every single customer. I think even like providing a taste testing for any of those foreign type of food can actually be of an experience. So I think one of the things that telling people that some of the dishes that you have grown up eating is something that's more authentic than just something you see on TV. That's the experience that you guys have to give to your customers. So it's, again, when it comes to food, you need to explain to them, why are you even creating these different dishes and be a restaurant, or even having a chef that is actually breaking, barriers from being corporate to now a chef. What story are you trying to tell your customers so they can come back to it? So the whole family style authenticity of serving certain type of dishes from your place is actually something that people need to know. So it's a story that you have to keep on telling, and that's a brand that you have to keep on building.
Yeah, again and again. Ken and Doris, when I said the person looking at the menu looking for that cliche Chinese dish, that I saw your reactions. You've both kind of felt that and then gone, well, that's not Chinese food. And then it's like you almost want to argue with them. Then you just don't know how to tell your story. And then you're down this weird rabbit hole where you're like, tofu. I just want to tell you about, just please try these tofu skins, because having had your menu, my favorite thing on the menu is those tofu skins. And yeah, they're weird. Tofu skin sounds like a strange thing for an American to eat. So for you, kind of, do you have that experience? And is there any talking points that you feel like you're just missing, or anything that does connect when you're able to tell a little piece of that story for you?
Well, the funny thing is, so this past week we actually ran like a 1-year anniversary special. Yep. And of all the items, the first item we ran was a crab and cheese wonton, which is by any means not Chinese food, but recognizable to probably every single American that's been to a takeout place. And out of all the specials, that was the one dish that sold the most. And I was Doris, and I was like, if we ran like a General Tso's, like we'd have probably like a line out the door, and so that's like kind of what I have to kind of deal with. Like, is that where I want to push my menu towards? Yes, maybe my sales numbers might go off the charts, but is that the food that we want to present? Is that what we want to present as us? And that's something that I kind of have to deal with on a daily basis, and kind of deciding like, how do I want to expand my menu? How do I want to tell our story through our food? Like, is General Tso's gonna do it? No, but will it crush our numbers and bring in the dollars? Probably yes. So that's something that we talk about quite often.
We really try to balance out our menu. Prior to COVID, lots of people asked for chicken fried rice. So we finally put a chicken fried rice on the menu after COVID. But it's a chicken fried rice that we like to eat. It's not the chicken fried rice that you would get at a takeout restaurant. The crab and cheese wonton that he did is a crab and cheese wonton that you won't get at a typical takeout restaurant. We make our own duck sauce. Typical Chinese restaurant might use wonton skin. We use egg roll skin. It's a different kind of fold. We tied it back to his family story that his mom opened this Chinese takeaway restaurant, and that's the crab rangoon she served.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think we'll touch on this more as we go through the series, because one of the things that I was fascinated in is what are the gateway drugs? What are the opportunities that you feel that you're cooking that really come from you, that aren't you just placating to people who want General Tso's chicken or want crab rangoons, and still creating that authenticity that then allow you just to have them order the food to then maybe they next time trust you enough to get the tofu skin. So I want to touch on that. I want to bring Michelle back in because I want to make sure we get on this. We've talked about their logo a little bit, Ken, Doris, and I, and Priya Shah, who works with them. Because the first time I saw it, totally didn't pay attention. It was like, oh, your logo's all right. I think it's got cool design to it, and you got the noodle bowl there. And like, that's a wok. That sure is, because it's tiny. And so now they're very much centralizing the story of the wok and also its visual representation, the way that Ken can pull a multitude of dishes out of it that don't look similar at all, that seemingly would need different cooking methods. His ability to have the wok very much is like the campfire. Everyone gathers around it and is just mesmerized by the magic that comes from this. This now is central to their story. So I want you to touch on that a little bit, because clearly if somebody like me who pays attention to branding didn't recognize it as a wok, that they need to invert their logo. And I think that's something they're aware of. But why is that piece important? How does the logo and the wok then allow them the opportunity to tell that story every single time somebody even sees their logo, let alone reads something or hears from them?
You have to let that logo pop. You need to change. Yeah, you gotta make it bold, because that's Cantonese, cooking vessel. That's something that we use to cook everything: boiling, stir fry, steaming, you name it. And for me to not be able to identify that immediately, which I bypass it, it's actually a branding problem, and it can be something you can easily fix. And then from people looking at the brand, the logo, and they see the wok, they gotta ask you questions. And that's what we're gonna dive into: who you are, what is your food about, and what are these dishes about? And then you start to introduce some of the foreign food that they're not used to or haven't seen or heard of before. And then you're gonna dive back into, hey, let's come to the kitchen and try out this type of food. It's actually authentic food, and it's Cantonese food, and this is what we are here for. Not just serving any typical Chinese American food, but actually authentic Cantonese family style. So you need to think about that kind of branding too.
Oh, Michelle, I love what you just said. Something just really popped for me. You basically want people's connection to you to be like, they come up to the stall, they don't even look at the menu, they say, what's coming out of the wok today? Like, that's what you want from them, where they now identify personally with the wok because they have such high expectations of the dish is going to be delicious. One, we know that, right, Ken? But number two is they're going to want to know the story. And if they get 3 dishes and each of them come out of wok, and one's a fried rice and another is a barbecue pork, like, they're going to be additionally mesmerized by the fact that how does this magician back there make all these dishes that look and feel and taste and texture completely different come from the same cooking vessel? That's a huge opportunity, especially because people can see it. Right? They walk up to your spot so they can see it. I think that's super important. Michelle, really great. Any last thoughts before we let you go?
You can actually show them how you form with this wok, because the fire there is huge. Yeah. I think that's what really sparked a lot of conversations too. How can a person use this vessel, create so many delicious dishes without, buying 15 other, tools? So I think that's something you can also spark a conversation by just demonstrating how you prepare these dishes and the style of it all.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Michelle, thank you so much. As always, really appreciate your insights. And yeah, really great. I know Ken and Doris are taking this to heart. Appreciate that. And I'm sure there'll be follow-up conversations. But Michelle with Brooklynite Media, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's good. The story, I like that, where what's coming out of the walk today, like that's another t-shirt. I'm always thinking about the way that you train. I think there's something there. And you know, the wok is a funny thing. Whenever I've worked with Chinese cooks and chefs, they use the wok for everything, and they use their cleaver for everything. And I'm like, come on.
Wok and the cleaver, that's it.
I was like, come on. You're deveining shrimp. Let's all right. Now it's time to use the pairing. Nope. And of course they're faster. They absolutely dominate me. And it's funny, it's laughable. Yet I think that's an interesting thing. It's just like, don't mess around. Just if it works, work it. So I appreciate that. All right. Now we're going to get into kind of the way that you cultivate community. So we talked about your story, the brand, the way that you're putting that out there. Now you really need to continuously bring people into the fold. So I want to bring the one and only Yumi Tran in. Yumi, good to see you.
Hi.
Anybody who watches the show knows Yumi very well, because I think she is the greatest mind and most entertaining person in our industry, and I appreciate you so much. So I'm really grateful. You, Ken and Doris, to kind of lay this down for everybody. Yumi Tran has had Indochine cuisine in Parker, Colorado for 17 plus years, and is the de facto mayor of Parker, Colorado. And I talk about this a lot from, Gary Vee talks about, be the mayor of your community. You have to. People need to look to you for leadership, for comfort, for communication, all of the things that restaurants are, the pillars of their community, I think is important. And Yumi has done that really well, to the point where something that I want for the two of you is that they have seen kids grow up in their restaurants, that then their parents set a date in the calendar when they turn 16, you're going to go work for Miss Yumi. That is strength, when you see how many restaurants struggle to both have their guests in those butts and seats, but also with staffing, right? And Yumi is cultivating that. So I want that for you. So Yumi, we're going to siphon some superpower for you today. Top level things, when you're thinking about embedding yourself in the community, when you are thinking about becoming a part of that community, as Ken and Doris need to, as they kind of lay their foundation in Denver, what do they need to be thinking about? What do they need to be focused on?
Hi guys. Hello. You're probably as young as my kids' age. So take this from a mom, an aunt, or whatever. Okay. First of all, I never really set out to do restaurants. So you guys have more of intention at restaurant owners than I ever had. And I didn't want to touch back on branding, but I will tell you something. I feel you. I am that kind of a chef. I wasn't a chef, but I did not want my restaurant to serve the typical food that Americans come to expect of Asians somehow. Right? And so the way I was able to build the community very early on, by accident, was in 2005, which is 2 years after we opened the restaurant. And I don't know how to cook, actually. I hate cooking, so don't cook at home. I noticed there was a trend for gluten-free, and that was how my community, if you actually do a statistic, you see that Parker probably had more gluten-free eating people than any city in the whole country. More than California. You would think you go to California. Yes, gluten-free, soy-free, very healthy eating. So I noticed that very early on. So what I did was, the struggling that I was doing the same thing. I don't want to serve the food that they come to expect of any Asian restaurant, Chinese fried rice, whatever, right? Thai food or Vietnamese pho, right? But they're typical. What I had to do at the balance was that I want to serve the community that I choose to serve, which is the people that wanted those food. So I start cultivating that community first. The community that require gluten-free, that are willing to look beyond the typical dishes that every restaurant serve. Then they would appreciate what I serve, right? So what I do is I balance my menu between the crab rangoon that you talked about So I talked about, instead of buying that whole red coloring, because I do a lot of non-food coloring things. So my community start to come in and trusting me. So like not a mayor, but trusting someone with an authority of knowledge of healthy food. So I tell them that, oh, I don't have sweet and sour sauce, but I have a pineapple sauce that I do that are gluten-free, soy-free, blah, 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 right? Then believe it or not, they start telling each other, hey, you know what? Crab rangoon, you can find everywhere, although I would say mine's pretty good, but but because we do it differently as well. But the sauce is what to get them in there. So then I introduced them the next dish, which I like them to try if they've never heard of before. Is a thing called flame beef cubes, right? So they come in and I say, hey, this is really good. This is how we do it, so like a French way. So I give them a little bit of a elevation of my food without alienating them or telling them they don't know what they're talking about. So what I'm doing is that I'm kind of leading them into the food that I want them to eat, that I want them to try, that they would view me as as somebody who look after their well-being, right? So because that's what you look for, not government official. Go back to mayor of the town, is that you want somebody who speak to you, who speak to what you need, and you feel that that person is working toward your interests, is taking care of you, right? So that's what I've done. And I think that from that small community, all of a sudden, and Asian and gluten-free kind of the thing don't go together. Back in 2005, I had to actually buy my soy sauce along with P.F. Chang. Shamrock couldn't get it for me. So that's how the community started. And then the parents of those that start eating all this gluten-free, guess what they do? They trust this is the only place where my family can be taken care of, including someday my kids should be working there. That's kind of how you grow from a little bit of targeting your community that you want to serve. You cannot serve anybody. And we have made that decision early on, just like political, right? One side, Democrat, Republican, you never please everybody. You wanted to make sure that they know that you just interested in making sure that keeping them healthy, they're giving them the food that tastes delicious, right? And healthy, and also at the same time elevating their palate without telling them right off the bat, I am going to teach you how to eat better. No, you don't do that. Right. You want to just elevating them slowly, and pretty soon they realize that, oh my God, I'm in this community of, I know what I'm eating now. I know that, my families have now become such culinary expert because we're eating something that we don't see it anywhere else.
Yeah.
And they feel comfortable with you. They trust that you would look after their interests for them. And that's kind of how it and so when their parent comes into town, they take them there, their friend comes into town, they want to see me. But they said, Yumi and Jeff and Indochine take good care of our tummy, and that's what you want to be. And so I know that might not be so much about the whole mayoring thing, but
no, this is perfect. Ken and Doris, what did I tell you? Yumi, you are incredible. Your energy and the way that you think across being strategic and tactical, statistics with the way you make people's tummies feel. You can see, Ken, Doris, it takes that level of thoughtfulness and creativity and ingenuity to be able to pull this crazy thing called a restaurant off. And the couple things that I really want you to take away from this is, one, the intent matters. Your intent to really bring people into your family, into that table where the wok is that central piece, is so, so important. People need to feel that. And it's hard sometimes when you go, that's not Chinese food. It is Chinese food for millions and millions of people that have been impacted by that first got introduced to it. And so for us to say that is not their experience is a struggle. Yet you say, God, there's just this other thing that's so good. You need to also take your time. We are so bad in restaurants. We are so instant gratification. It's the next plate, the next plate, the next plate, right?
Can I say though?
Please.
But it's good to do the balance. It's good to do those Chinese fried rice, chicken fried rice, because those are your revenue, right? You want to take care of your revenue first too. So yes, as much as we want to be like, we want to be better than the regular Chinese food, but you know what? You know that you better. You just know that. And the way you cook your food and the way you do your sauce Like what I heard Doris said, you make your own sauce and things. You know that you don't have to prove that right away. Slowly make them the chicken fried rice that your kind of chicken fried rice, and tell them why they're different. Like for us, we add a lot of basil in it. We tell them the health benefit of all the herb that we put in there, right? Same thing with the summer roll. All the Vietnamese restaurants do the summer roll, but we do them differently. Why are we differently? Not because we do better. Oh no, we add a lot of herbs for you, so you know it tastes better, and basils are really good for digestive system. Blah blah blah. You're not lying. You actually just educating people and differentiate why your summer roll or your crab rangoon are different than everybody else. There will be customers who listen, right? Many of the customers might go through and go, I don't care what you have to say. But there will be those that listen, and those are the ones you want to come back. Those will be your most loyal, your most outspoken supporter of you. So just keep doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of my, I don't know if it's Ken's biggest struggle, but one of my biggest struggle is even when we have customers who come and they order one of our more interesting dish, like the sizzling spicy noodle or the Sichuan rice cake, which is an original recipe, they ask for like 5 packets of soy sauce, and I give it to them begrudgingly, like, ugh. But it's
okay,
like,
you know what? Let me tell you something. This is what I do, and this is the trick you do. Just ask them to say, you know what, my God. Oh, sorry. You know what I do? I dilute my soy sauce intentionally. And I would say to them when I handed them the package before, I said, in the future, I'm thinking about, I'm going to give you in a little cup, because you know what? I really want to dilute this because, you know, we intake so much salt and just like a lot of high blood pressure. So you start just dropping that in. You're still giving them those packets, but you're letting them know that you are aware of their health, that eventually you dilute your soy sauce. Immediately, next time when they come in, they're going to ask you for 1, not 5.
I hope so, because I'm not even so much concerned with their health. I'm concerned that I'm ruining the flavor of the food because it's already so flavorful. Like I know how much sauce I put when I stir fry this fried rice and how much hoisin and whatever, and then they're like, "Give me 5 packets."
I know. We saw that with customers. Sometimes we like, yeah. But you know what? Take time. It takes time. Your kind of customer will come in. I can tell you, just having the message out there. You know, don't be too like preachy, but do it with a sense of humor. And guess what? Your tribe will be there. And one day there, you have it made. It's just for right now. You're still going to be just a year, 2, 3, 5 years sometimes. It takes to fight that tribe. And now I would tell you who my customers are. There'll be customers that I don't want. I hate to say that, but there'll be customers like, no, it's okay. You don't have to come to my place. You know what I mean? And you get there.
I appreciate that. One of the things that's interesting to Yumi's point, where you can kind of diffuse that situation and think about the next situation, because we get stuck in that one interaction. Yet if you're thinking transactionally, that one interaction, you're vulnerable. You need to be thinking about the 2nd, 3rd, 7th, 24th time that person's potentially coming back. And so you lay the groundwork on 1, do me a favor, try it without the soy sauce. And if you don't like it, I'll give you a 3/3 packet of soy sauce on us, even though you'll give them 3 for free anyway, because they asked for 2 packets of soy sauce. That's how you create that little bit of banter. Yumi, I know you like that. It's a good one. You can use that one. That's the way, though, you build that banter, because they may try it and absolutely love it and never use that soy sauce. That's a big win for you. Or they might use some soy sauce, maybe less than they planned, or they dump and douse it with soy sauce and it's ruined. Yet if they love it at the end of the day, who are we to say that it's ruined, even though it wasn't what you intended it to be?
Exactly.
Yet next time that they come, they have a little bit more trust, because you gave a shit enough to communicate with them and interact with them in a meaningful and personal way, versus just throwing the soy sauce at them with this side glance. You know that I've been there.
I love what you said, Jensen. I mean, that's what I said. Sometimes something is so disgusted and you go, oh, for God's sake. But no, you say it with a smile and you turn around the conversation about something comical. You know what? We intentionally don't have packet soy sauce at our restaurant. I will tell you that. That was all by design. So that I pour them in the little, because we use only gluten-free. So we put them in the little container. Then when we give it them, first of all, it looked expensive. They don't ask for 5. Also, I give it to them and I said, you know what? We actually don't have packet soy sauce because we wanted to make sure, because you know that there's so much salt in the soy sauce, so we diluted it for you. So
I love that you mom them.
No, seriously, we do that. We don't have packet soy sauce. We don't have so many things that are typical, I don't want to say Asian restaurant do. We don't. Right. We have elevated to the point, but naturally you do that. We don't do that being stuck up or anything like that. They're very strategic. You look at our menu, you see it. There are 2 Vietnamese dishes in there. We Vietnamese. There are a bunch of Thai dishes, but that's a couple like broccoli, mushroom, beef, sesame chicken, but they're all gluten-free, for example. So we tell them, yes, we are doing the kind of typical dishes, very highly elevated. Therefore, we can charge $17 for sesame chicken and nobody barking, right? But that's the thing. So you get to that. You get to know your customer, and you get to find the customer who resonate with what you're trying to tell them. You know, but I think honestly, for the revenue sake, we do too. We do a lot of fried rice. It's just that our fried rice are very different, very expensive, very different, right? But at the same time, that's okay. That's your revenue. You don't want to be stressed about not getting the revenue coming in. You can only be creative and do more for your restaurant and try new things and have time to try your food onto the customer when you have the ability to do so, right? It's not practical to say, well, I don't want to do that right now. I don't want to follow the traditional one. I don't want to give you crab rangoon because I'm not that kind of restaurant. I mean, who are we to say that? Right. Yeah, we go what the demand is, right? But not to say that you cheapen your image or you cheapen what you offer. Be smart about it. Be a business people, right? So like if that brings your revenue, do it. But do it good. Do it differently. Then you can be proud by saying, hey, my cheese wontons are not the same as anybody else. And you will tell them that. And they will know that. You don't have to tell them that. They will know that. So don't be so, I don't know. I mean, like I intentionally not to serve pho because I don't do anything with MSG. So that takes me forever to cook my stuff. But not because I looked out on pho, right?
Right.
But from a point of view of money-wise, why am I selling something but $12 when I literally can do 3 minutes on some dishes that sell 17? So a lot of that. So bring a lot of your business mind in. And I really encourage the fact that you guys are really, really smart to think this far and get to Jensen. I mean, that's really smart. I wish when I was at owner of my restaurant, I could be smart enough to think it through and be able to like listen to other people and you know, and sort it out. And so I applaud you guys for that.
Yeah.
I mean, your parents should be very proud.
You're the best. You are amazing. I really appreciate it. Ken and Doris, you're welcome for bringing Yumi in. That's just what I do. I just connect really smart people. So Yumi, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And for everybody who needs more Yumi in their life, which we all do, starting October 16th, we're starting a 4-part series with Yumi to kind of, again, we're going to siphon as much superpower as possible. So Ken and Doris, you'll get a little bit more coaching from Yumi indirectly as well. So appreciate you, Yumi. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This is awesome. Those are 2 powerhouse women that are like really, really thought leaders in the way that they approach. So any big takeaways for you from this episode that you really want to try and go out there and start applying?
Well, I definitely want to look into rebranding our logo. Probably like find someone based in Denver to help us redesign. And also control my emotions when those people come and ask for 10 packs of soy sauce, because I know even under the mask you can feel the side eye judging. Right. Yep. It's really hard to not do that. So something that I'm gonna try to be more aware of.
And Ken, do you feel a little bit more like now you have a clearer path to like make the crab rangoon, to make the fried rice, to make the General Tso's, that you're still you have to make sure you tell them why it's different so that they understand that, so that they trust and confidence is so important. So you feel like you kind of have a little bit more of a game plan there?
Yeah, and I think we've kind of already started doing that by like introducing that stuff at the General Tso's and all that stuff, and make it special to us and make it, and this is why we're doing this, not just because it's for revenue. That's just a dumb story, no one wants to hear that. But then also like, okay, well, you like my fried rice. how about let's try something a little bit more off the beaten path, you know, a little, I use the word, do you want to be more adventurous? You know, you want to try something a little bit different that you might not eat normally. And so that's definitely kind of resonated with me. And also how Yumi was talking about, she had kind of catered to a particular group of people, like with the gluten-free and the soy-free, like that just kind of gets my brain thinking like, okay, like how can I, you know, utilize that and apply that to our food, you know?
Like figure out who our customer base is.
Yeah. So when you're having those interactions, recognize those moments, those little glimmers where you say, that's our people right there. They get it. They feel us. They completely understand where we're coming from. Cultivate that. And you start to kind of create this archetype. You say you start to see the pattern the more you interact with them. You have to have those meaningful interactions. Otherwise, if it's order food, hand them food, and they finish or don't finish the food, you don't really understand what their experience of you all is, of Meta Asian Kitchen is. So I think that's important. And also understand, if somebody's willing to start, wherever they're willing to start with you, they're starting a journey, and it's your job as their guide to take them wherever they're willing and able to go, and wherever you're able to take them. And so, you know, they see xiaolong bao on a menu. I don't know how the hell to say that. I'm not going to order it because I'm going to feel stupid, right? And so creating the opportunity for them to order xiaolong bao and hear the story of that and what that means and the process that it takes to make something like that, or even just bao buns, like they need to understand that so that you're building trust and confidence. You got to recognize that right now they have no idea what that is and they don't want to feel stupid. So they're just going to order the thing that they know, and that's the General Tso's, which is why that sells more. Not because people like it better or even it's a better dish, because they feel comfortable and confident in ordering that. They have a realistic expectation, and it's your job to kind of move them along that journey. But just always recognize, if they're willing to order food from you, that you should celebrate that and find a way to cultivate that. And even though it's challenging when they're like, you see them dumping soy sauce on your perfectly seasoned dish, you go, what are you doing? You have to be grateful in that moment that they're even giving you a shot. So appreciate that. All right. Amazing. I love this. I'm excited. We're going to be on every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. Mountain, 11 Pacific, 10-part series. This is week 2. Next week, we're going to be digging into, what are we digging into? We're going to talk about sourcing a little bit, menu development stuff. We're going to kind of go at cheap Chinese food and figure out how we can use ingredients and techniques and the wok to elevate that. So I appreciate Ken and Doris and everybody as always for tuning in. That's it for today. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.